Hi there, Johnny here. So in this video, I just want to do a quick guide on showing you how to set up 2FA to protect your login into both the web UI and as well as the console. So the first thing we need to do to get that to work is we need to create a new access server. So an access server is the different methods that you can use to set up users and how they access the different services on OpnSense. So by default, OpnSense uses a local database. So what we will do is create a new one. Now the first thing we want to do is change the type. So we'll change it to local and then time-based one-time password. So what this will do is use the local database, so the default OpnSense database for its users, and then it will add a time-based, so two-factor authentication to that. So what I'm going to name it 2FA. For the token length, the default is 6, so most authenticators default to 6 digits. So I'm going to be using Google Authenticator. Depending on your authenticator, you can change it here. The time window, so this is how long each token is valid for. So the default is 30 seconds. So after 30 seconds, it will then generate a new token. The grace period, so once the token expires, so 30 seconds, it will give the user a grace period to still finish typing in that token, and it will accept the token for another 10 seconds. So in this case, once it expires after 30 seconds, the token will technically still be valid for another 10 seconds after that. You can change the period here if you want. Okay, so the token order. So when you log into OpnSense, you get an input for the username and password. So how it works is when you put in your password, by default, you will require your token and then your password. So in the input field, you'll put your 6-digit one-time password and then or token, and then you'll put in your actual user's password. If you want to do the opposite, so you want the user and password and then the token, you can tick this. I'm going to leave it as the token first and then the user password. Once you've got all of this, we can save it. The next step is to assign this to a user. So what we'll do is go to users. You can create a new user, but I'm just going to add it onto the root user for this guide. So I'm going to edit it. If we scroll all the way to the bottom, and we see here's an input called OTP seed, so the one-time password seed. What we will do is click on the new, so generate a new secret, and we'll click save. Once it has saved, if we scroll down again, you'll see we now have an input called OTP QR code. But if we click on here, this is a code, QR code you can use to add to your application. So I'll be using Google Authenticator. So Google Authenticator works on both Apple and Android. So I've installed that and I'll be using that. So once it's installed and you've gone through all the steps, there will be a plus icon at the bottom here on both Android and Apple. If you click on it, it will pop up saying scan a QR code. You can click on that, and then once that is done, you can scan this. What we can do now, I'm just going to click save anyway, but what I'm going to do now is we can test to make sure it works before we implement it. So under tester, make sure the 2FA authenticator server is selected. So to test this, we'll put in the username, so in this case root. Now for the password, since we said we want to put the 2FA code, the token first, we'll put that in. So for my instance, it's 247342, and then I'll put in my password for the root user. Now if we click on test, if everything's successful, show you a message saying that the authentication was successful. We're happy. If you just go and put in your password and not the 2FA code and you push test, you'll see you get authentication failed. So you have to have the 2FA, in this case in the front, for it to work. From there, we need to now tell OpnSense to use this authentication method or server as the default method for logging in. This is via both the web UI and the console. So from there, under systems, we go to settings and then administration. If we scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll get the authentication section. From the server, we will make sure we only select the 2FA option. That's only one that's ticked. We don't want any of the other options in this case. With only that one selected, I will then go and save. Now that it's saved, I'm going to log out and let's test it. So I'm going to try it without the token. It does not allow us in. Now I'm going to try it with the token. So in my case it's 215185 and then my password. I did it wrong. Let's see. It will now allow me in. Now we can test it as well on the console. If you go under the console and I want to log in through root, and if I put just the password, it will tell us that it's incorrect. And now if I do it with the code, so now it's changed to 116700, and then the root password and push enter, it now logs us in. Now we have to go over what will happen if you, for instance, uninstall your authenticator app, or you lose a phone or something. How do you now log in if you don't have access to your app anymore? Okay, so the first thing we need to do is reboot OpnSense into single user mode. What I'll do is go here, choose reboot. Now since you obviously rebooting OpnSense, you're not going to have DNS and all of that, so if you have to, just make sure your laptop has a static IP that you can then communicate to your instance. For example, if you're using Proxmox, or you'll just have to, if it's a bare metal instance of OpnSense, you'll obviously be working directly on the console. Okay, so once you see the OpnSense boot menu, I'm going to press space to pause it so that it doesn't go too fast, and then we need to enter into single user mode. So we'll press 2. Okay, we'll just push enter. Okay, once we're in, we need to now mount the drive. So we'll type mount space, that'll be O, read write, and then /. Once that is mounted, you need to run the following. Once you've typed that in, it will tell you if you want to restore the default login behavior. So we can choose yes. Yes. Here we can type in the new password for a root user. Once you're done, we can just type exit. Okay, so now if we try log in, we should be able to log in with just username and password. We will not need the OTP. There we go. So now it's logged in without the OTP options. And if we go back to the web UI, we should be able to do the same. So logging in without the OTP. There we go. Then from here, if we just go back to, so in this case, system, access, servers, we'll see it's still there. But if we set it, it's under administration. If we scroll all the way down again to the authentication type, it's on local database. So what we can do now is set it back to 2FA, and then we can go back to our user and then just reset our QR code. So if we scroll down to the bottom, you can then choose generate a new secret, save. If you scroll back to the bottom, so you now have a new QR code that you can then scan, and you'll have access to everything again. So this is just a quick video on how to set up 2FA for OpnSense. If this helped you, please consider liking and subscribing. I would appreciate it. It will help grow the channel. And until then, I'll see you in the next one.